Okay. Hopefully this is all good. Let's see. Let's see if this thing works. Should work. Pow. Ooh, nice. Yeah. Okay. Now let's do this. Pow. Okay. Hopefully it will show the game. Come on. Hopefully it will come on, come on. Come on. Well, hopefully. Let's see. Let's see if this works. Okay, nice. Nice. Let's just check the volume. Hopefully it wasn't too strong. 5-1. Okay. Let's see. Oh, wait a minute. Uh, Beautiful. I really like this armor. Okay. Anyway, just checking on my phone. Getting these weird notifications. One second. Okay. BRB. Gotta go check something, and I'll be right back. I will be right back. Ah, okay, nice. There we go. There we go. Okay. Sorry for the delay. And we are back. We are back. Let's see what's going on here. Okay, so what we are going to do today, and oops, I didn't even switch the scene. Actually, wait. Okay, it's fine. I thought something was going on the stream. Yeah, so today, or well, tonight, even though it's kind of getting late for me, but we'll stick around for a little bit. I am going to officially start my SWTOR return. So yeah, and I kind of thought about it. Most likely, well, most definitely, I'm going to pick the Imperial Agent story. Kind of seemed like an obvious pick because it's, you know, I wanted to see which story would be like the most interesting, the most fun, the most like intricate and whatever, most like twists and turns and choices and whatever. So that's how I feel right now, and we will, you know, go through the entire story of that class. And who knows, like, if I'll definitely do a whole playthrough of that character only, you know, just the story. So that's kind of like my goal for the next, you know, I don't know how many streams. So yeah, I'm going to create a completely new character. I think I'm gonna delete one of these. I should actually do that right now. I'm gonna keep this one just to see if I can like transfer some maybe items if I have them. And I mentioned on my previous stream, I think, when I was watching all those delete. Okay. When I was watching all of those oh, wait a minute. Oh, okay. Whew. Okay. I thought I couldn't create a character unless I subscribed or something. Which I'm not gonna do until I kind of, you know, get into the game. I'll see if I will actually even spend any money on the game, but probably not. But, you know, we'll see. We'll see down the line. Like, the only thing I can see actually, you know, spending money on is getting like a temporary sub, like just for 1 month. And I don't really even care about the sub itself. It's more like just to unlock all of the content later on. But yeah, the great thing, which I've seen, and whoever's been watching has also seen on my previous stream, that the great thing is the whole base game is basically free, plus the first 2 expansions, which is interesting. That's pretty cool. And I don't remember anything from the expansions, so it's gonna be interesting. Let me switch. Also, let's see if I think it's gonna work. Yep, there we go. Okay, let's see the delay. Okay, there it is. So, really cool thing. As I said on my previous stream, I think, I don't know what's going on with my throat, but anyway, I mentioned that I would like to set up my MIDI controller. I actually do have a MIDI controller. It's like a little tiny 2-octave keyboard, MIDI keyboard, which also has like those drum pads. And the really cool thing is, I figured out you can actually use those things to kind of control your stream. So really cool, you know. I just like tap on a different button. Now the stream is delayed a little bit for me, so okay, so now in that scene, now I'm back to the stream, to the game, I mean. Yeah, so it's really cool. I can just like the volume, I can mute my microphone. It's pretty cool. And I also managed to somehow like cram it into this like tiny space that I have. But anyway, without further ado, Also, as you guys can see, like above me here, I actually, when I back in the day when I played a lot of SWTOR, forgot most of it sadly. I managed to complete all of the class stories, so that's cool. You guys will see that I actually have some certain like perks in game, like, you know, the legacy unlocks and whatever. I kind of forgot about all of those things, or at least most of them, so it's gonna be pretty fresh, more or less, for me, like from here on out. But the cool thing is, like, if some of those like old unlocks that I've managed to do actually help me within the game, that would be pretty freaking cool. Okay, so I'm gonna treat this, which will actually be, you know, like a very honest, let's say, first attempt after many years. So yeah, I'm pretty much gonna treat this playthrough as like a completely new game, basically. Okay. Star Wars: The Old Republic. Join the fight for the galaxy as you side with the Galactic Republic or Sith Empire. To embark on one of 8 exciting origin stories, you will be creating a level 1 character. Okay, let's do it. Also, one bonus thing. Really happy. Ooh, nice. I'm really happy that I managed to fix the aspect ratio or the resolution of the screen, because since I have a widescreen, and from what I've seen when I've done a little research, because I ran into an issue, because the game is kind of old now, because it's not really meant for like ultra wide. I actually had to like condense it down to like a narrower aspect ratio. I think it's actually 16:9 right now. You guys don't see any difference, but it's actually a little bit like narrowed down for me, but it's you know, love the Republic and the good guys and whatever, you know, like good guys, because I kind of like, well, at least in this game, I kind of like the bounty hunter aesthetic, and of course the gameplay, but I don't know, I was on the fence, like, should I choose the bounty hunter story or should I choose the Imperial Agent story? I kind of decided to at least make my first playthrough the Imperial Agent, because it's so revered, you know, it's so like praised and whatever, so why not? If it's gonna be like a freaking TV show, I'm all for it, you know. Especially now that I'm kind of older and probably gonna see things a little bit differently than I used to like 10 plus years ago, so yeah. Actually, it was like 11 years ago when I last played this game. Jeez Christ. Okay, so this is completely new to me. I kind of have seen this before, obviously, but I haven't actually played it. Nice, so little effects and whatever. Okay, so choose your origin story. Sith Warrior. I'm not gonna read all of these, but I am gonna read some things that are kind of like probably gonna be relevant. Okay, so the big thing that they did, and as we've seen on the previous stream, what is this? Wait a minute.
This should be interesting.
I'm very good at my work. I'm very good at my work.
Okay. What did I want to say? Yeah. So the big thing that we've seen on our previous stream is you can actually nowadays you can just pick any kind of, like, let's say advanced class. It used to be called advanced class, but now it's like spread out, so you can do pretty much any kind of playstyle. Doesn't matter what class you choose. So I don't know. I kind of feeling like going as an operative. It's hard to say. I really like playing a stealth character. And from what I've seen, you can actually have like 2 play styles and kind of switch them back and forth. So that would be real cool. Oh, but I can't really decide. Like, I don't know if it's which one. I really like the gameplay of the bounty hunter kind of playstyle. Both mercenary hard tech. Then again, I really want to play either scoundrel or operative. I mean, all of these kind of look, you know, fun. The one that I do know that I probably won't pick, the commando. Not really a fan of the like big gun. Vanguard is kind of interesting because, yeah, it has that like rifle thing going on. It's really hard. Also, I really, actually, when I think about it, I really like, I really like the sniper thing too. Most elite sharpshooters in the galaxy. Snipers use their test training to eliminate sensitive targets and turn the tide of the battle in their favor. Yeah, I don't know. It seems very interesting, actually. Pushing enemies stealth, using advanced medical technology, do whatever it takes to advance the agenda of the allies. Damn, I really like the long-range kind of gameplay with this guy, but also I like the stealth, you know, backstabby kind of gameplay. It's really hard to choose. It's super hard to Pair of blasters, deadly heat-seeking missiles, and heavy armor. Make the mercenary a mobile weapons platform. Wait a minute. 1 second. Okay. Sorry about that. I thought there was no sound. It's like, whoa. Really hard to choose. I know I can pick like between 2 later, but personal takedown enemies of all sides. Kind of. It's really hard to say. I love stealth. I really like stealth because I love, you know, I used to love sneaking around, you know, going in enemies' bases and whatever. It's so hard to pick. Else carry on my back. Oh, I don't know. I really don't know. I wish somebody else just decided for me, but... Damn. Super hard to do. The thing with like stealth and melee, it's probably gonna be a little trickier to level up because you know, you kind of get comfortable with stealth and you kind of like want to skip through enemies and whatever, but with sniper I'm probably gonna be a little bit more straightforward. Plus the long range. I assume the sniper is gonna have a way longer range than Operative Scoundrel. Kind of leaning towards Operative a little bit more because of the like knife attack. I think Scoundrel, if I remember correctly, has like a headshot, like point blank shot or something like that. It's so hard. I really wish I didn't have to decide. I wish I could just, I wish I could just, you know, pick any of them on the fly, whatever I feel like. But apparently you can't do that. That sucks. And I really don't feel like playing, you know, two different characters just to, you know, pick. Oh, I really gotta decide. It's... The worst thing is when you have to decide between two things. It's like, oh, damage over time, hybrid damage, direct damage. I don't know. Huh, I don't know if free-to-play players have these two unlocked straight from the beginning. I don't know. Okay, body type. Well, I'm kind of, I don't know, because I'm really not that creative when it comes to this. Don't really care too much. I'm just gonna, I don't know. Just gonna see what kind of feels the best. I don't know. All these faces seem very familiar. Okay. Scars. Huh. Interesting. Number 6. Oh. Scars. Never been a fan of scars. Like looking through them, maybe there's something interesting, but okay. Eye color. Is it brown? Yeah. Beards. Maybe like a... What's it called? Not exactly a beard, more like a stubble or... Like just barely. If it even exists. Maybe not. Huh, interesting. So either a full-grown beard or mustache or nothing. That's interesting. That's where Guild Wars 2 got it better. Okay, we're not gonna be bald. God, these all seem so familiar. This was actually the hairstyle I picked on my very first character. I remember that. I don't know. So familiar. Blue. Oh, look at that. Like, you can see, like, highlights or something. It has, like, a purplish glow. Red. Don't want to go too, like, hard on the color. Oh, whoa. Too bright. What the hell? Jesus. Interesting. Green. The hell? I don't know. There was this one interesting one that I've seen, but which one was it? It was like dark, but it had like a low. Oh, was it this one? It's really hard to tell. Kind of has like a purple-ish glow. This one is also kind of interesting. Red-ish. Okay, skin color. I don't know. What are the extremes? I don't know, somewhere in the middle. I don't really. I don't know. 20, 25, 26. I don't know. Okay. Name. Let's see if the sin is available. I doubt it, but let's see. Invalid name. Okay. What about underscore? Contains invalid characters, so I assume numbers. I have no idea. I don't know. Tricky. Oh, okay. It is available. Interesting. Ah, the very famous owned. So cool to finally be able to play on a good machine. Back when I played this game way back, I used to play on a PC that my parents bought me, and it wasn't exactly a gaming PC, even though I very much cherished it. Used it to my best of my abilities, and you know respected it, whatever. But I was always kind of sad that I couldn't really play, on without lag and better graphics and whatever. Oh, Hada, yeah. Huh. Yeah, Hada. Hada is the hut planet you start on as like the Empire, like techies, the non-force users. Okay. Oh wow. Bah. Okay, what happens if I click? Nothing. Okay. I assume if I hit escape, then it's gonna close it off. Really cool. I really missed the floating monologue thing intro. I'm gonna try my best not to skip like cutscenes and whatever. So we're gonna take it pretty relaxed. Wow, the loading time. It almost brings a tear to my eye how fast it is now. I mean, yeah, it's an old game, but still. Beautiful. I see a little bit of screen tear. I'm not sure how to fix that. But who knows? I'll ask in map chat. Maybe somebody knows. Ah, look at that hairdo. Imperial agent. Yeah, there is a bit of screen tear. Like, I don't know why that is. Okay. Hello there. Ooh, hello there. God, I remember the chairs. Such a stupid thing to remember, but...
Secure transmission established. This is Keeper.
Oh crap, I don't have subtitles. Damn it.
Your orders.
I forgot. Okay, secure transmission established. This is Keeper. Oh, I remember the name. The Keeper. Speak freely, agent. Prepare to receive orders.
Keeper, should I be thanking you for these lovely accommodations?
Don't get cute and don't waste my time. You're here to work. You were chosen for this operation because of your exemplary performance.
I'll turn on the subtitles.
Imperial intelligence needs agents capable of working independently in the field. Now you apply your training to the real world. Nemro the Hutt and his organization run Jaguna, and you're in town to convince Nemro to supply the Empire.
Give me background. What are we working from?
Jaguna is an industrial town, and Nemro runs most of the industry. The Hutt supplies weapons, drugs, and raw materials, but not to us.
Did he say
I
drugs?
believe Nemro has been
Isn't it
reluctant to
spice?
lose Republic customers by publicly siding
Isn't it
with the
spice in Star
Empire.
Wars?
It's time he overcame this reluctance.
Okay.
And I'm your means of making that happen.
That's correct, Agent. We need to know what Nemro and his advisors are thinking before we can act. I want you to obtain access to the Nemro clan's inner circle. You'll require a cover identity. One of our contacts, an alien named Jig, has prepared a background for you and will provide the details.
Trust me, Keeper, I don't need any help to get close to a hut.
Don't underestimate the Nemro clan. The galaxy has seen more effective gangsters, but rarely more sadistic ones. Jig will be waiting for you at a safe house. Locate him, take what he offers, then report to me.
Okay.
Consider it done.
Most of Jaguna is caught up in a turf war. Some of the gangs involved belong to the huts. Others are independent. Your combat training should see you through, but expect brutality and expect to be targeted. Jaguna isn't friendly to strangers. Now, find Jig and report back to me. Keep her out.
Like, I understand everything he's saying and I can hear him and everything, but I definitely need... The first thing I need to do is turn on subtitles. Where would that be? Skip character creation and introduction movies. No. Display subtitles. Okay. Sure. Yeah, show conversation live in game. Yeah. Okay, there are probably like maybe some settings that I will actually like tinker with, but not immediately. Let's first just play the game. Okay, let's see. Content update. Legacy Reborn. What's new? Legacy of Sith story to conclude. Legacy Reborn. Dangerous fringe groups rise in the dark corners. Okay, so that's like high level content. Not really interested in that right now. PvP also not really interested right now. I've seen that they removed like ranked PvP. That's so weird. I don't know why they did that. Gonna have to investigate that. Galactic Seasons. Okay, so nothing really relevant for me right now. Wow, it's been a freaking long time. The UI looks kind of normal to me. I guess I was so used to like everything being stretched sideways, so it's kind of now it looks like it's stretched upwards a little bit. Okay, what is this? Galactic Seasons. Okay. Login rewards. 3K credit certificate. Okay. What is this? Oh, okay. How do I... Reputable trader for face value. Okay, I'll check that out. The thing that I really like now, and I'm really... like today, when I was at work, I was just like... I couldn't stop thinking about this game. Even though, yes, I... you know, probably not a lot of people are going to agree with this, but yeah, when it comes to MMOs, I really love, you know, Guild Wars 2. It's my go-to MMO and whatever. But there's something special about like coming back to this game, and I really think I am going to enjoy it. You know, regardless of like the things that are way different, and you know the let's say more old school kind of gameplay, but I really don't care anymore. You know, it's like I just want to mainly I want to experience the story, but I also want to see, you know, what it was like. Plus, I'm a really big Star Wars fan, so okay. Complimentary major experience boost. Okay, so from what I've seen in certain clips, videos, and whatever, nowadays they really help you out, like level through the base game. It's not so much of a grind, I think, but we'll see. Well, I'll get the first-hand experience, so... Okay, wow. It's been a freaking long time. This is how you walk, right? Yeah, wow. Me getting amused by, like, the smallest things. Okay, so cool. I don't know how long this has been here. Like, the not necessarily a mini-map, but apparently there's a map. Okay, this is how it used to be. This is how I actually played it before, so it kind of goes a little bit like see-through, and yeah. But now you can actually see it like this. Cool. Okay, so PP, no. Login rewards, I got them. Cartel market, not really interested right now. Or ever, we'll see, I don't know. Okay, cool, so it's gonna take me a little bit to get reacquainted. Okay, one of the first things I really want to do right now is... Yeah, okay, so... Oh, I actually had it saved a bit. Nice. Let's see. Crouch. Okay, so there's my basic attack. Crouch split carries provides cover. Crouching enables use of cover-only abilities. So long as you remain down behind a cover object, most ranged attackers strike your cover instead. That's really cool. That's a slightly added defense, I guess. Okay. Cover. Oh, I remember the sound effect too. Really cool. Snipe. Shoots target for, well, bigger damage than the base attack. Oh yeah, and actually in this game, kind of like in other older MMOs, you actually have to heal up. You don't heal up automatically. And there's health items too. For 3 hours. Sure, let's activate one of them. Why not? Also, I've noticed that I have these like legacy perks, which is awesome. So I kind of have like a little bit of a head start. Okay. So far, the UI is okay. I have a feeling it's a little bit slanted. Let's see. Let's see what a predefined
You
one
got those
is.
supplies the boss asked for?
So this is the
Father's goons
default
are out
one.
there putting holes in anything that moves. I'm not going
Enhanced.
This your first turf war? You want to get paid or not?
anywhere. No, I want to keep breathing more.
Breathing the air is as likely to kill you as Father's boys are.
Extended.
Buy a blaster. Learn the routes through town. Just don't let the boss hear you dodging work because
I don't know. I'll keep it
gangsters.
extended for now and we'll see how it goes. Okay. Claim your new identity. I don't know if the text is too small. Kind of want to increase the size of the chat like this. I also want to increase the font. Yeah, maybe like that. I'll kind of tinker around with it later. Okay, so let's see. Cantina vendor. What do you have to offer? So right click is open. Right?
Banky.
Box token. Buy back. Repair. Oh, there's repairing as well. Interesting.
Topi.
Completely got used to like not repairing stuff. Medical services. Hopefully the camera movement is not too fast. Oh, this is like probably like the bounty hunter area. Oh yeah, I forgot about this. So when you open C, customization, yeah, I can choose the title. Oh, this is great. This is freaking great. Legacy title. Oh, look at this. Wow. Oh my god, the nostalgia. Look at all this that I've unlocked 10 years ago. Jesus Christ. What's a fun one? Charismatic, extrovert, Charbox. War Master of Oricon. Let's go with Living Legend. Let's go with Living Legend. I kind of want to show off a little bit first. Ooh, character flair as well. That's really cool. I don't know why my name is here. Like, what does that do? Weird. Not sure what the era is. Missions. Okay, the basic stuff. Details, not interested in that. Alignment. Character customization. Wait a minute, so you have to pay for this, right? Yeah. Okay. I actually have like leftover cartel coins, that's interesting. 70. Outfitter. I assume I have nothing. Weapon mods. Wow, there's like so many things I well, missed out over the years. Unified colors. Dyes. Oh, now you can dye stuff, but huh. Is it all not? Are they all like not free? Oh no, wait a minute, I remember this. Yeah, I remember the layout. Ah. Show Dark Side Corruption. Combat style. Oh, okay. You must be a subscriber to unlock a second combat style. Okay, well, the game is obviously pushing in that direction. Loadout and reset your ability layout. Okay, I don't know. I'll stick to this like direct damage for now. What are loadouts? Oh, it's like saved like specs or whatever. Okay, I'll figure it out as I go. Let's see. Okay, movement I know, jumping I know. There's the camera. Okay. Triangle, I know that. The mission, the story mission is like the purplish one. Any mission can be repeatable. That's interesting. That's pretty interesting. Except missions appear in the mission tracker in the upper right corner of the screen. Okay, but wait. Oh, you can switch like that. Okay, so kind of looks okay like that too. Starfighter battle, Warzone. Oh, okay, it's up here. Nice, so there's an in-game clock. It's obviously my time. Wow. Okay, so it's an enemy, I know that. Combat, whatever. The thing that's gonna feel very weird is like not being able to dodge. I mean, you can probably dodge, but like it has to be like an ability or something. It's not like a default thing for everybody, which is kind of weird. Speeder. World map. Mission objectives. Objective mission area. Wi-Fi symbol. Okay. Taxi location. Yeah, so the mount system in this game is kind of outdated, but oh well. Purchasing from the market. Okay, I'm not really interested in that. Outfitter. Window opens currently upgrade gear. Yeah, no problem. Okay. Stamp that item to the appropriate slot you're selected. Outfit stamping. Assigns the appearance of that item to the slot. Does not consume the item. You can stamp the same item into multiple outfits. Note the stamping and adding an item to your outfit will bind that item to your character. Okay. Once you're satisfied with your new look, select the commit changes button on the bottom window to save it. You will be presented with a confirmation window informing you of total outfit build costs and credits, as well as any items that will come down. So in case your outfit withdraw the necessary funds. Bind any. Alright, activate. So it's not free? Okay. Yeah, it's not free. Wow, okay. Occasional office lesson with plus. Credits or capital coins. At least you can get some things with credits, if nothing. Let's see if chat works. Hello. Okay, cool. Who knows? Maybe we actually talked to somebody in game. Okay. Let's. Whoops. Wait a minute. Why is F? Why not? Let's talk in chat. Back from I don't know, let's say a 10-year. There we go. Okay. So why is F, when I press F, why is it key bindings? Let's see. Take cover, place. Take cover. Cover fire. Companion. Target self. Target's target. Okay, not super important. I'll kind of get it along the way. Keep pressing F by mistake to kind of talk to NPCs.
Welcome to Hutta, kid. You're new here. You look like you got a bright future, so let me give you a word of advice.
Oh, yeah, right.
Watch your back out there. Learn how to please the people in charge.
Way better with
as
subtitles.
As soon as you can, get out.
I don't know if I should place the chat like down on the left. It's kind of weird up there.
I don't plan to stay any longer than I have to.
You got a good head on you then. Just hope that when you're ready to leave, there's a gang war raging out there right now. If you want to survive on Hutta, you're gonna have to learn the ropes. I can get you experience navigating Hutta's gangs. Help you build...
Okay, I'll help you out. Nothing's ever free.
Of course, there's always a catch.
This is a gangster town, controlled by a greedy and cruel Hutt named Nemro. As if there was any other kind. Used to be I worked for Nemro's gang.
Glad there's voice
acting. Bloody life. That's why I left. But now, my little brother's following my footsteps. Nemro's street gang leader, Rex Gear, is my old buddy. I thought he might help get my brother out, but I can't get to Rex for all the fighting.
Wait a minute, 1 second. Sorry. Something popped up. 1 second. Where is it? Okay. Come on, where is it? Tools. OBS. Wait a minute. Actually, Never mind. I wanted to try something in OBS, but try next time. Okay, please don't. Okay, nice.
How do I fit in?
If you could blast your way through them and talk to Rex, convince him to let my brother go, I'd be grateful.
What exactly do I get out of it? I mean, besides a reputation.
I told you what you stand to gain in terms of reputation, but if that's not enough, I think I can swing some credits.
Of course it's not enough. I'm not gonna do it for free. Oh, you can actually refuse a quest. Okay. Oh, God, it's getting pretty hot. My AC is kind of like busted, I guess. I have to call a repairman. Consider.
We have an agreement.
Glad to hear it.
I extended his
Fine
hand.
Emerald's
Like, nope.
boys hold up in Jaguna, but you're gonna need to fight through Fothra's thugs, so be careful.
Okay. Sure. Well, I'll be careful. Nemro's bounty droid. I said I was gonna do the story only, and I'm like selecting side quests.
I've sent more of their stupid thugs. Time to break out the big guns.
Oh, that was lava. I was like, what the hell is that? Wait a minute. I can do this while standing. Okay. But I can't do it while moving. Level 2. There you go. Okay. Did that guy say anything? Let's check out the UI. So, companion, group frame, social notifications. Yeah. I don't know. I feel like putting the chat. Like, I don't know what this is. Show grid. There we go. Snap UI to grid. Yes, please. Gotta appease the OCD gods. Is it in line? I think so. Nice. I had to do it like I have to mess around with the default one. Companion. I don't know. I kind of want to put the chat here. So companion. I don't know. Maybe here. Companion cast bar. Admiral Akbar. Okay. So I can put the, oh, okay. Not yet. Roof frames. Maybe like there. Okay. Oh, that's not good. What? Oh, it's because okay. I was like, what the hell? Should be good enough. Okay, so I want to put the chat down here on the left. I mean, I assume there's like a default setting for that, but it's fine. I don't know if I should increase the scale though, maybe a little bit. Maybe a little bit. Why not? Why not? I mean, that's a little bit. Okay. That's good. Nice. Damn, it's so different now. Okay, now to do the thing that I wanted to do. Oh, it's almost there. It's almost freaking there. Wait a minute. Okay. There we go. raise that one too. Just to appease the OCD gods. Okay, cool. I'll make other changes if need be. I don't know, guess I'll keep it like this. I don't know about the map size though. I guess it's okay. Let's kill this guy again. It's so weird how you can't dodge. Wait a minute. How do you... How do I jump to that cover? What? Place. Oh. Okay, well, apparently F does that. Interesting. Okay, cover's not gonna protect me from that. Wow, very little damage so far. But I guess he's a tough bot. Okay, so F does that, but what if I... Wait a minute. I think I have the jetpack, right? Where is it? Summon random pet, sure. One second, got a notification. Oh damn, okay. Hey, love to see people come back to SWTOR. Is this stream your first time back altogether, or have you been playing before the stream? Oh. Well, first of all, welcome to the stream, Peraltas. Damn. Well, I don't know where to begin. But yeah, I'll try to keep it short to sweet, as much as I can. I've been playing a lot, like back when I was in high school, like way before. Tell me the whole story. Yes. Well, if you're up for it, I mean, I can literally talk for hours. But I'll try to not keep it like exactly that. Anyway, I think I started playing like, so I was in high school, that was like 20... The game, like, maybe almost even came out by then, like 2011, 2012, something like that. I think I started playing in 2012 or 2013, something like that. Maybe even earlier, I don't know. But anyway, long story short, I have managed, like back then, up until 2015, to do a lot of things in game. Like, I managed to like do, you know, a lot of cool unlocks and, you know, play all the different character stories. When I started this stream, I actually explained the whole history, let's say. So yeah, I had a lot of fun, and it was a really, you know, cool time to play this specific game. Because I'm a huge Star Wars fan, you know, to begin with. I obviously love the older movies. When I say older, I mean everything before Disney. I mean, no offense if you like the Disney stuff, you know, to each their own. But my kind of train of thought is like, I am a fan of the older stuff. No, why did I leave trouble? No, I'm probably gonna die. Oh, damn it. Okay, my first death. Jesus Christ. I actually had a med pack. Anyway. Medical probe. Nice. Anyway, yeah, so all in all, I did a lot of stuff. I had a lot of fun. I played all the class stories and whatever, you know, collected crazy things. And to kind of prove it, Actually, sure, why not? The titles. I can't remember what the legendary status actually means. Like, is it some sort of like, oh, you played the game for a long time, so you get this, or I don't know. Whoops. Do not die. I should have chosen a stealth. But yeah, anyway. As you can see, I have a lot of like legacy titles, so there's been a lot of things to do, you know. Yes, finished all A class to 50, that's legendary status when you finish all their stories. Yes, so as you can tell, I didn't play most of the expansions. Well, actually, almost all of them I didn't play. The only one that I did play is the Rise of the Hutt Cartel, but I completely forgot, you know, what that was about. I even forgot what the... This is funny, just like crouching underneath him. But I lost my train of thought. What was it talking about? Also, it's slightly late, so don't mind me if I kind of get lost in my head. But yeah, I played through level 50. That was like the cap at the time, or maybe 55. I'm not sure. I think it was 55. And yeah, kind of exciting to be back, even though I'm very much used to, you know, let's say a more modern kind of gameplay, but it's... Maybe it's the nostalgia talking, maybe it's actually, you know, interesting again, who knows. But yeah, it also helps that I'm, you know, pretty big Star Wars fan overall. 55 sounds right for Hard Cartel. Yes. Also, I hope you don't mind that I actually read out your messages out loud. Some people, I guess, don't like that. Kind of helps me focus. Stop it. Stop. Stop. Go away, you. Go. Get. Okay. Probably should have picked a stealth character. Goddamn. Anyway, just want to check. What are these? Oh. Okay. It's a shame that it doesn't say when I got these mails. The Force, okay. Well, it says 37 minutes ago, but that's not true. Oh, okay, that's... okay. So yeah, anyway, it's been a long while. It's been a long while. I am pretty much adjusting. I am kind of excited to go deeper into story. I'm gonna try and stick mostly to the story. Just because, you know, there's a lot of things to do. So focusing in on the story is probably gonna be a smart move, at least for this character, which I created from scratch. And there's also a really... oh, a mount, okay. There's also kind of a sad part to my, like, overall... oh, look at that. Welcome to Rise of the Hutt Cartel. Damn, this is an old male, definitely. Okay, oh no, totally okay. I will say, though, the game might not do... the game might do with being a smidge quieter. You're clear, but I think the game is competing with you a little. Oh, that's okay to say. Of course, let me just fix that quickly. Hopefully my neighbors don't think I'm loud. Okay, so in-game volume, let's see. Okay, so I actually lowered everything besides my voice, so it obviously can kind of stick out. Especially since my mic is like kind of far away, but it's not too far away. It's okay. Okay, I can bump down. If it was 5 decibels, I can make it like, I don't know, -8. I don't know. Okay, and you tell me if it sounds okay. If you think it should be even more quiet, go ahead. You know, don't worry about it. It's actually a lot easier if somebody tells you, you know, the way it actually is, instead of like being nice and, you know. hello, Meme Factory. And I have to immediately disappoint you. I know what you're gonna ask. But yeah, the plan is, as you can see, kind of playing a new game at the moment. And I'm kind of hoping that I actually will play this game for quite a while. I might even post a VOD to YouTube, like kind of like I did with wait a minute. Thank you for the follow. Appreciate it. But don't worry, Meme Factory. I'll jump into. Oh, not tonight. Again, gonna be honest, not tonight. Not gonna jump into Rocket League because I started later, but not because I wanted to. This time I actually do have an excuse. Besides having a really long day at work, which was fine. I mean, there was things to do. I had to do a lot of things. I actually stayed well, if normal work time is like 8 hours, yeah, maybe 2 hours longer, yeah. So all in all, I stayed longer at work, had to do some important things, had to like send emails and whatever, which was all, you know, I had to do all of that, obviously. So yeah, that's kind of the reason why I started later, and I really wanted to you know, jump into this game because I set everything up and I kind of have this like little plan. So when it comes to Rocket League, I will, I'll, not sure which day. Who knows? Maybe, maybe even tomorrow. But like, I'll kind of make like probably like an intermission. Depends on how this game goes. What I mean by that is, if I can kind of plan it out to be like maybe, you know, most of the playthrough of Star Wars and then kind of fit in a little bit of Rocket League, but, you know, I mean, it's also fun, but yeah. Yeah, but thanks for joining. Glad to have you. Always glad to have company. Hope you had a good run today if you did that. Yeah, definitely, it's nice to know if you're being drowned out. That seems a good bit better already. Well, you know, feel free to let me know, you know, for as long as you care about that. It's completely fine either way. But yeah, it would kind of suck if the game was like too loud, or if it was like overpowering me too much. But it would also kind of suck if the game was way too quiet, so... Balance. Perfectly balanced, as all things should be. I did go on a run today. It was about 5.5 miles. Damn. Jesus. Everything seems a lot to me. Mobile drink service. Please. Please. Something. Anything. Oh god, I remember these people. Oh my god. Do I have my emotes? I think I actually have some emotes saved, but how the hell do you even access them? I have no idea. Emotes, there we go. So I did actually unlock some of them, but I have no idea where they are. Show off, mood, emotion, dance. Okay, I only have one of them unlocked. What the hell? Subscriber emo. Could have sworn I had like more things unlocked. Okay, guess we'll sell for regular dance. No, I'm kidding. Okay, cool. So there's a lot of emotes too. Not sure when I'll be using them, but
I'm telling you, baby, I'm big time.
I just randomly went inside here. Like I have no idea. Didn't even like follow the quest marker. Still getting used to the UI. Like even though it's very obvious where I'm supposed to go, I can tell. Like you see the like purple icon, but yeah. Wait a minute. Can I activate my rocket boots? Huh. Wait a minute, do I have... Wait a minute, I didn't unlock my pets? There we go. Yeah. Unlock all the things. Okay. The Illustrious. The Illustrious versus Legendary. Oh crap, look at that. Ah, but I already unlocked some of these, right? Yeah. Oh, inventory module. Crew skill assignment slot, sure. I remember these being useful. That should be in the legacy tab for the rocket boost, I think. Yes, you're right. I completely forgot about that. Okay, so I actually wanted to show this. Well, not this. This is all like character based. But like, I mean, I forgot about all of these things. The only thing I do remember, like doing a lot, which when I now look at it is kind of not, maybe not that much, or yes? No. Wow, can't even talk. I actually did a lot of this. Jesus Christ. The Gree event. I remember this event specifically. I on my old characters, and I'll get to this piece of lore soon. When I did this event, this specific event on the planet Voss, I think. No, not Voss. What's it called? Ilum. I think it's Ilum. I specifically remember unlocking both of those like outfits. Those like they kind of look like motion capture outfits. It's kind of weird. Like the blue and the red one. I specifically remember unlocking both of those outfits, and I couldn't decide like which one to wear. And also another thing, I did all of those things obviously on my old characters, and I can't remember exactly what happened. Did I delete the characters on purpose, or was it like a server-wide, I don't know, game developers decided to like wipe, you know, your old characters or whatever? But I had like 15 characters. 15 characters. But not all 15 were like, you know, completely fleshed out, obviously. They were like, the only reason why I had like 15, 16, whatever characters is because I wanted, at the time, I wanted to try out all the different, what were they called? The advanced class. The advanced classes. Nowadays, as I see, you actually can choose almost any kind of advanced class for almost any class and whatever, which is great. The only thing that sucks is that you can only like choose between two of them at a time. Like when you make a character, you can only choose two. Kind of sucks. Yeah, you can go back and forth, that's cool, but I wish you can use like, you can at any time choose any advanced class. But oh well. But yeah, anyway, all of my old characters were wiped. Like, there was some sort of notification I got, like, if you don't log into your character, it's gonna get deleted because server or something, I don't know. So yeah, I'm the most, like, I don't really care about those, like, other 14 characters, but, like, I'm kind of sad about losing my main character, which was there from the beginning, and my second main, or first alt, or whatever. Same thing. Same shit. Because they had these like cool outfits, they had these cool like, you know, unlocked things that I kind of wish that I could like, you know, revisit, but oh well. Hey. Funny how a game can make you like sad about the silliest things. But oh well, it is what it is. Gotta move on. Anyway, enough digression. Well, if there's gonna be a lot of digressions, that's the stream, guys. Okay, so these are all the things that I unlocked. Can't wait to use Force Choke. Force Choke, Flamethrower, this like massive Force Lightning thing, whatever. What am I looking for? I am looking for the jetpack ability. I think I can figure it out. Oh, okay, it's already unlocked. Unlocks to personal boosters. Legacy unlock. Okay. Sniper, pets, mounts. Maybe I need to level up a little bit more. I doubt that it's a sniper. There it is! There it frickin' is. Wait a minute. But if F is bound for that... Huh. Can I just drag it? Please? Oh! Why can't I... Oh! There it is! Yes! Nice. Wow, it's been a freaking long time. Jesus Christ. Okay, at level 10 you can unlock the glorified speed boost. To be fair, MMOs can very much make you feel that nostalgia in the way they change, and even in the instance some of them shut down. Yeah, it's gonna suck when this game finally dies. And I specifically said finally dies because, well, I don't know. In my opinion, I think most MMOs are pretty much like going in a downward spiral, sadly. Yes, there are, you know, like definitely games and servers out there that are like, you know, very populated and whatever, but it's kind of, I don't know. I feel like it's a bit of a sad reality, but then again, I don't know. I'm always kind of hopeful that something better will come along, you know, so who knows? Who knows what we might get? Like maybe MMOs get some kind of like big revival and some sort of, you know, take on some other form or whatever. I just hope it's gonna be fun. You know, that's kind of the most important thing. Okay, what the hell am I doing? One thing I want to check out, because F makes you crouch. Kind of not used to that. Wait a minute. Can I... Okay, so the thing that I want to do, I want to bind the rockets to F. The rocket boost to F. But I want to see if... Is there a different crouch ability? No? It's just... Oh, wait a minute. Take our rolls into the selected cover point. Really depends, honestly. I don't want the MMO rush again, where everyone was trying to make one and did it bad, but I do hope some more MMOs in the traditional vein will still come about. Guild Wars 3 might be a contender, we shall see. Funny that you mentioned Guild Wars 3. I don't know if you just stumbled upon my stream or just popped in randomly, or I don't know. It doesn't matter, but it's kind of funny. The moment I stopped playing SWTOR the first time in 2015-ish, that's kind of exactly the time that I actually started playing Guild Wars 2. So that's kind of like my that has been like my main MMO for like, well, however long 2015 was since then. So yeah, I actually boot up Guild Wars 2, you know, now on streams from time to time. So there it is, Steve. Yes, I was kind of confused, like what the hell is up with the emotes. So I can take that. I think this is gonna be way more useful. Yeah, definitely. Okay. I'm not gonna attack. It's still so hard to like... I don't know. Maybe like this. Okay. The thing I want to do, and constantly keep failing at it. I want to bind this cover mechanic to something useful. Where is it? Targeting. Take cover in place. Okay, so no, I want to unbind that. Unbind that too, why not? Actually, I'm an idiot. Oh my god. Actually, I have like two buttons on the side of my mouse, so I can actually use that to my advantage. God damn it. Maybe I can use like one for mounts and one for the rocket. So I kinda screwed up. Reinforces your preferences to wait a minute. Actually, here's a question for you, Peralta's. Like, if I click the default, will it reset everything? All my settings, or will it reset just... Oh, actually... Reset page. I assume just the page, right? Ironically, I did the same at one point. Yours too was a big part of my MMO journey. Yeah. If somebody asked me, like, what's the best MMO? I'd kind of lean towards Guild Wars 2, honestly. Yeah, there's Final Fantasy, yeah, there's World of Warcraft and ESO and I don't know what else, you know, other popular ones. But I don't know, to me personally, but mainly because of the gameplay and the breath of fresh air that is, you know, that MMO, I recommend that over any other game. Should just be a keybinds, I think, but don't quote me. I won't quote you. I'll blame you. Nah, I'm just kidding. Okay, reset page. I assume it means that. Yeah. I'll notice. If the subtitles are gone, that means that everything was reset. Okay, so take cover can stay F, that's fine. But I am gonna map the rocket boost actually to one of my mouse buttons. There's a Mount Flourish, what? I forgot about that. How do I do this? I forgot. Keep binding, import, targeting, no. Quick bar, no. Actually, wait a minute. I think it's this. I just have to figure out which one of these. Quick bar 2. I assume it's quick bar 2. Let's see, let's test it. Where is it? Never mind. Where the hell is it? Guild Wars 2 was very dynamic, but still felt like a proper MMO. Yes, the thing that I really like about Guild Wars 2 is like the gameplay. The gameplay, the mounts especially, the mounts just don't compare to any other game. The graphics are actually pretty cool, like they have this art style kind of theme to it, but looks beautiful. Even more beautiful than Star Wars, honestly. But, you know, it's a product of its time, so... Whoops. Wrong button. Sucks that because I'm watching the stream on my tablet, kind of the most convenient way I can do it. I have to manually scroll every time I get a message. I don't know why it's like that. Maybe it's bugged. I don't know. I think it'd be quick bar 2 slot 12 maybe. Quick bar slot. It should be. Maybe I have to click apply. Oh my god. Dumbass. I'm a dumbass. Okay. Fucking hell. Jesus Christ. Stupid. Okay, finally. Yay! We can fly around naked, half naked. What the hell? Did I not have armor? What? Maybe I didn't. I don't know. So many things to do. Like, I mostly keep talking. I'm not even, like, playing the game. What the hell? Apply selected unlock to your player character inventory module. Yes, please. Can't get enough of inventory. Whoops. The thing that's weird, like you can't open multiple windows. It has to be like one. See? Like, it's kind of weird. Also, I can't stretch the inventory window to my liking. That's kind of also weird. But okay. It is what it is. At least you're getting used to everything as you're going. Well, yeah, it's taking me a little bit longer than I thought it would, but listen, I'm having a good time. The only thing that kind of sucks is that even though nothing exciting is pretty much going on, time is going by pretty fast. It's like almost like it's 1:30 a.m. Oh, jeez. These things safe for that. Multiple windows. I mean, maybe, possibly. If it does exist, it would be awesome. Okay, let's test it out. F. Okay. But if there's a cover... Okay, nice. Okay, so the thing that I love about games is like when you set things up exactly how you want them, it's just like almost on autopilot. Okay, I don't know why I'm aiming at these guys, but target is dead. I can't wait to unlock what's his name? The companion. Oof. It's gonna be expensive. Yeah, HK, I can actually unlock him. Master. What is thy bidding, my man? No, wait, he's like way more cynical or sarcastic. Okay, I actually want to try and find that setting. Interface, I guess. No, whoops. Game. User interface. No. Tooltip, no. Social center, no. Operation frames, no. Hold off settings, no. Efficiency buff, devals, outfitter, missions, inventory. Automatically close inventory. Using vendors. Okay, I'll I mean, it's not really bothering me, I just wanted to, out of curiosity. Okay, is this the right button? Yes, it is. Let's actually go and do some story. Where is... Okay. Oh, it's this one, okay. Imperial Agent phase. Your group mates can help you if they are not an Imperial Agent. That's interesting. I forgot about that. Or if they select allow access to same class story areas in preference window. Okay. I most likely won't be needing help, but I assume the game's kind of even easier nowadays. Ah yes, I understood every single word he said. I didn't even need the subtitles. Yes, HK51. Could be wrong. I'm looking to see if it's there right now. Ah, it's... You know, if there isn't, it's fine. Here softly from the Empire, MG, I'm expecting you, I have your new identity.
I'm listening.
Sure.
Continue.
I'm listening.
Vataranai angomis akananon, alas protas era. Gratai aptikte, iruprit pertini savasia.
Nah, it's fine. Don't worry about it. You'll be the blade. Let's be a jerk. Let's say too simple.
This sounds easy, Jeeg. What's the catch?
Jeeg.
Fluxtajai pami rastikad. Padra vimos brandimus prostiscad atveredag. Vataranai angomis akananon, alas protas era.
I thought it said interface. It's actually interference. But there was interference at the spaceport. Hurry up.
Get to the point already.
Get to the point.
Rodonomales, smogas total gispavo apiatai. Gratai aptikte, iruprit Bertini Savasia Salvebe Kaijis.
Of course, you know, killing somebody, what else? This is your
In other
mistake.
words, you messed up and you want me to fix things.
Small sio popudus mana ira padare mana nan kali. Gratai aptikte irprit Bertini Savasia Salvebe Kaijis.
It's gonna be a long playthrough, like
Alas protas era.
if I remember correctly, there's like a lot of cutscenes. But it's fine. It's just the only limiting factor is like, well, time. So it's either gonna be like a lot of streams until I like finish the story. But we'll see how it goes. Maybe, who knows, because I forgot how long it takes. Who knows? We'll see. So I'm mostly gonna focus on the story missions. If there's some, like, I don't know, side quest I stumble upon, like, sure, why not? But mostly gonna, at least on this character, just focus on the story. And also I picked Imperial Agent on purpose. As far as I can remember, it was kind of like the most interesting story. Okay, that will not be needed. Just want to remember. All access, same story. Okay. I forgot that I don't have any melee attacks. It's all ranged. Which is kind of preferable for, like, leveling. Can I hide here? Yes. And he stabs me like melee. Damn. Already level 4. Okay. This will not be a long playthrough after all. Really depends on how much side content you do versus main story. Typically you manage to get to 50 by just doing the planned story and class, but even then you can over-level. Also, yes, Imperial Agent is usually seen as the best. The thing is, like, I would honestly, like, if it was just, like, aesthetics and gameplay, maybe, and, you know, things besides the story, I would most likely go Bounty Hunter. Most likely. I don't know. It's something about Bounty Hunters. I always liked the whole Bounty Hunter aesthetic in Guild Wars 2, in SWTOR. Well, in Star Wars too. So yeah, but I chose Imperial Agent because, well, the story. My first ever playthrough was actually a Jedi Knight. I assume for most people it maybe is, because it's kind of like this classic Star Wars story, I guess. The default, let's say. And it was pretty good. It was enjoyable. It was like exactly how I expected it. It was kind of like let's say less deep KOTOR. Very cool part of Star Wars unit. Yeah. To be fair, yes. Oh, look at that. Takedown. Attempts to take the target down with a single powerful shot. Deals weapon damage. Only usable targets at or... Oh, okay. Slowly but surely I'm remembering. Okay, I have a grenade now. Still getting used to the gameplay. It's like so different from what I'm used to in Guild Wars 2. You are in combat. What? Wow, he followed me all the way. There you go.
You got some skill breaking through Fathra's line, and some nerve coming in here. Do I know you?
Let's make
I
this
don't have
quick.
time for this. I'm here for the Brel kid.
What do you want with him? You working for Fathra too?
It's funny how he has kind of like a British accent, like by default being like, work for family, don't make up stories. I work for me.
I don't care one bit about Nemro or Fathra. I work for myself, and you're going to give me the Brel
I am
kid.
Sorry,
self-employed.
buddy, I
Thank you
can't
very
do
much.
that. The Brel kid's a traitor. First time Father's thugs start shooting at us, he turns coward and tries to join their side. Nemro's gonna have a lot of questions for him, and I can't
Slaves?
let him go.
Prisoners? I don't
Trust
care.
me, you
Start
don't
a
want to
fight.
cause trouble here.
Do it.
Look,
Do it.
I don't want to make trouble. So how about I pay you some credits and you go on your way? Tell Brell's big brother you got here too late or something. You'll be richer, and this weasel will get what he has coming.
I could use the credits, but I wonder how much I'll get. Let's be evil.
Hey, credits are credits. I'm not picky.
You hear that, Brell? Your savior's just been bought.
It kind of pains me a little bit every time I pick like a
Hope you
bad
did
option,
everything
but
you wanted to do in this life, because
need the credits.
once Nemro's through with you, you're done.
No, please! Please!
you never know. Who
Stop
knows? Maybe
sniveling, you
maybe these
moron.
guys were trapped. Maybe they're
Here, take your credits.
maybe they're sus.
And
Who
good
knows?
luck dealing with Big Brother.
Me making excuses. Okay, I have no idea. Like, did I even get like credits, or do I get them like? Do I get like a little bonus after the mission? Who knows? No, I wanted to do 3. It's so funny when you like throw a grenade at like one person. Always love a bad decision on an Imperial character, to be fair. Well, that's kind of the expected outcome, isn't it?
La próxima era. Adra vimos brandimus prostis cad adveritag.
Red blade. That was a lot of trouble. Let's lie.
I had to kill people for those gifts, Jeeg. This had better work.
Ir principa zinima cad gis. Vataranai angomis akana norm. Alas protas era.
Calls ready now.
From this point forward, operational security will be at a premium. You will not contact us from this terminal again.
Small sio poputus mana ira pada.
Okay.
I understand you corrected Jeek's mishandling of the situation, Agent. We'll now proceed.
It turned out to be his fault. Interesting. We'll now proceed. Let's be an asshole.
That creature didn't just mishandle things. He messed up badly.
Possibly, but we will use him until he's outlived his function. Your next task is to access Nemro's inner circle. Present yourself to the hut as a fellow gangster, the Red Blade, and offer him Jeeg's gifts. One of the gifts is implanted with a listening device, which we will use to monitor conversations within Nemro's palace.
Can't stop thinking about the accent. It's like they, you know, obviously the British one is gonna be evil, right? I think get it. But if there's trouble, seems. Wait, what did he say? I guess device.
Are you listening for something specific?
At this juncture, our primary goal is to find weaknesses in Nemro's organization. Even if the Hutt won't join us, we might influence his lieutenants. Talk to Nemro and his men.
Evil
Determine
James
who we
Bond.
can
Ah,
turn
tell
and
Rich
how we
Jackson.
can
Of course,
sway them.
of course.
We will be
Gotta
listening.
stick to the way it the way it is. Okay. I want it. I just
Whatever
want to
it
be
takes
done.
to get me off this slime pit of a world.
There are far
What
worse
a dick.
places, Blade. Enjoy this while it lasts. Be careful what you say. And lose the accent. When you're in the Hutt Palace, you're no longer an Imperial.
You're no longer
Contact me from
British.
the
I mean
cantina
Imperial.
Once Nemro has his presence. Keep her out.
Okay, so that's it for the goalkeeper. Now we. Okay, so I got a rifle. I literally feel like I just started playing any MMO. Okay, so how do you replace? I assume it's like a one click. Nice. Okay. So one right click. I'm not gonna mess around with the outfitter yet. I'll do that like at a later level. Right now, I just wanna, well, play. Keeper heard us through the fourth wall. Shh. Be very, very quiet. Keeper is listening to us. Okay, just kidding. Random acts of Random acts of senseless violence. Yeah, selfless violence. Random acts of selfless violence. Okay, I liked how they follow me all the way. Okay. Eat this. Okay. It's kind of bugging me. I want to see if I can. I can make it a little bit bigger. That's what she said. Okay. Anyway, enough with jokes. Wow, it's already freaking. Why am I walking? It's already freaking almost 2 a.m. Jesus Christ. Thankfully, I don't have to get up early. Thankfully. Okay, Cantina Vendor. Another player. Ooh, what the hell? That's an interesting, like, icon flare thing, whatever. But I like my legendary one better. Okay. I love that you can rocket, like, inside areas.
The pirate's on his way. Security droids say he's armed, but he won't be trouble.
Let's hope not.
She looks
Here
familiar.
He is now.
I'll go tell the boss.
This is Carol's. Tell the throne room that the blades arrived.
Okay.
When Nemro shows, stay at least 5 meters back and don't come up unless you're called. One wrong move, and you're a pile of ash.
One thing that kind of threw me out of it was like, threw me out of the immersion was when the keeper said drugs instead of spice. That was kind of weird. Maybe I don't know if that was like an accident or like a slip up or something. Never heard like Star Wars characters say drugs. Maybe it's like a in-universe different thing. Like maybe when they say drugs, they mean like medicine or something. Never shows up, still at least 5 meters away. I'm getting impatient.
Send in Nemro and let's do this.
Just going over the rules. You've got a reputation, and we don't want any problems.
I'm not being a dick on purpose, but I don't know. It kind of depends on the situation.
Nemro the Hutt, the illustrious crime king of Jaguna.
Okay. Spice is mentioned elsewhere in the game too, so we're probably just trying to be nondescript side of Spice. Maybe. Possibly. Blades from us, so you're true, what you brought me and my clan. I really don't care about this guy, like... Just like... This is like my in-game character talking like, I just want to get out of here. Or... I just want to get out of here. It's nonsense. Brought me better than you deserve.
You're worth, you pile of slime.
Oh.
Not bad. Nemro, the idols here are real Orodium. The Gloff looks like...
Funny how it lets him like get away with it. Maybe he's like, he has balls, so I'm not gonna like throw him down a pit or something. Wallow in opulence. I don't know. I could say that's disgusting, but eh.
I'm very grateful. You got quite a place.
It's funny how you can like switch like demeanor like on the fly. He's a great actor. No wonder his story is good. Okay. This would suck without subtitles, by the way. Personality transplanted between dialogue options. Yep.
Looks
It's just
like
like
your audience
switching
with
on the fly.
Nemro is over.
Just, you know,
We'll have to forgive the interruption.
actually, this playthrough is like playing like
I've
a
been working for that hut since he killed my gang
like
when I was
you know,
13.
split personality
Trust
kind of
me,
character.
You can't talk to him when he's like this.
Not even he knows what's going on. Trust me, you can talk to him when he's like this. But you
Looks
stick
like your
around?
boss has some temper. Why stay with him?
Because Nimro's got power and smarts, along with his temper. I like things a little more orderly than he does, but I don't complain. We're having trouble with the Fathra clan, and it's getting to all of us. Fathra's out of line, but the Hutt cartel hasn't bothered to interfere.
Okay. But interfere.
It's a real shame. Must make life difficult for you.
You're not kidding. The attacks are bad enough, but Nemro's temper could turn a crisis into a bloodbath. Now look, I need to work up new plans with security, and keep an eye on Tathlosian to keep him from suggesting anything stupid. In the meantime, you're a guest, and you've got our permission to do business here. You got the run of the palace, so I'll see you around.
The only thing I kind of wish is like that the eyes weren't so like fake, so dead. You know, I wish the eyes on the characters were kind of like more. I don't know. Hard to explain it. Like a little bit more alive, I guess. It always looks like he's like staring, you know, in space. Okay. Like, so far, even though I just started, if somebody asked me, like, you know, what happened for the, like, past couple of these quests, I would be like, going to have to head out here now, sadly, but it's nice meeting you. I'll definitely try and pop in again. Yeah, thanks Charlotte for joining. You know, whenever you have time, or you see like my notification pop up that I'm going live, you know, sure, come hang out. It's free country. But yeah, thanks for joining and have a good one. See you next time. Okay. Did I? Oh my god. I missed. I missed. Whoops. Go to the palace suite. No, no. Oh, look at that. Okay. Interesting. Alright, that's how it looks like for the sniper, yeah. That's how it looks for the freaking sniper. If I was an operative, then he wouldn't have that like cover. Okay, let's see. Wow, I didn't remember the music. I have to click on that. Oh, hidden surveillance. Yeah, okay. Forgot. That object is hiding. Yeah. Okay. Here. Okay, 17th time is the charm, I guess. Okay. In bottles? What? How much you want to bet there is one? Oh, okay, I was wrong. Okay. Sweet Hall Terminal. And that, oh, okay. Interesting. Oh, I missed that table, okay. think I used to have, like, back when I played, you know, a long time ago, I used to have that very table as like an emote or a toy or something. It's gone. Yeah, it's gone. Gone forever.
Well done, Agent. The listening device is working perfectly, and Nemro can keep no more secrets from us.
Here.
Imperial intelligence has determined that Nemro's human lieutenant, Carlos Jarvis, is the weak link in his operation. You're going to twist the man until he serves us.
He won't be any trouble to manipulate.
Unfortunately, Carols is on the verge of disfavor with Nemro, while the Twi'lek Lieutenant Tafligen, I believe, is Nemro's rising star. I want you to go to Carols and offer your services as the Red Blade. Do whatever is required to bring Carol's glory in Nemro's eyes.
What does Nemro have against Carol's?
Carol's work has been suffering due to the interference of the Fothra clan. Nemro finds that an unacceptable excuse for failure. One other thing, Agent. This operation of ours has drawn the attention of a member of the Dark Council, Darth Jadus himself.
Okay.
The Council's authority is second only to that of the Emperor.
Scary.
It's a rare honor for an intelligence operation to be overseen in this way.
A Dark
With all due respect, what does the Dark Council care about Hutter? This operation isn't exactly a threat to the Sith.
I don't know why Lord Jadus is interested, nor is it our concern. The Sith aren't obligated to share their reasons. Report back once you've read it, whatever aid Carols requires. Keep her out.
Okay. Agent. What? Oh, it's gone. Damn it. Wow, 70 credits. Okay, level 5. What does level 5 bring? I wonder. Okay, subverting Carol's Jarvis. Speak to Carol's Jarvis. Okay, we can fly away. Whee!
I'm telling you, baby, I'm big time.
I'm telling you, baby, I'm big time.
Don't be in such a hurry, Blade. Don't you remember me? Your old buddy, Dino Ray?
No.
Now, you haven't aged well since we met up on Hoth. Your nose and your skin. But you couldn't be an imposter. You know your friend Dino.
I'd be like, I don't know you.
Sorry, I'm pretty sure we've never met.
Ah, then we have a problem. You see, you don't look like the Blade I know. The Blade who owes me credits. But you say you're the Blade, so I'll take you at your word and ask for my money.
Wait a minute. I want to check something. It just crossed my mind. So if I'm gonna save this as a VOD, oh, I have to double check something. Wait a minute, because I recently added the source. Oh. 1 second. Where is it? Audio settings, okay. Okay. Should be fine. Should be absolutely fine. Okay, should be fine, Oops, okay. Anyway, let's return to the game. Come on. Okay. Say the Blade, so I'll take you at your word and ask for my money. What? You understand? You scum. Nah, I'll be nice. I'll say you're pushing
Back off, Dino. Don't make me hurt you.
Right. I don't think so. Yeah, I don't know where the real Blade is, and I don't care. But if you want me to keep your secret, I'll need enough credits to keep me comfortable.
No way. Not gonna give him creds. But I don't want to fight him yet.
You're bluffing.
you wouldn't dare say anything.
You think? Well, you're right, talking does make things complicated. But if I kill you before you can run back to Nemro, I bet I can figure the scam you're pulling. And the HUD'll pay me nicely.
Okay, now he's getting annoying. Yep. Throw a grenade at him, it's funny. There we go, 2 shots, nice. Easy peasy. And everybody's just like, nothing unusual.
Blade, come on over.
Blade.
Glad to see you're enjoying the palace. Look, I've only got 5 minutes before I have to go meet with some alien freaks, and I want to ask you something. You've been around the galaxy a few times. What's it like dealing with the Empire?
What to say? I'll say pretty smooth.
It's been good business, and the government hasn't given me much trouble.
You're one of the last real
Why does he
independents.
just change his accent?
I admire you for that, but your kind is dying out. The Hutts have taken control of the gangs, and I think real soon the Republican Empire will want control of the Hutts, even if Nimro won't believe it. So if we gotta pick a side, I want to pick a winner, and I don't see the Empire losing.
So what's your
Sounds
plan?
reasonable, but what are you gonna do about it?
For starters, I make sure
I swear
I'm not
his
being
accent
stupid.
changed.
There's more on the line than business. My sons are free traders. They're doing business in the Sullus system. It's their first time dealing with the Empire, so I worry. I probably shouldn't. But you came to me for a reason. What can I do for you, Blade?
Money.
Look, I need credits, fast, and I'm not picky about what it takes.
I'm not a charity.
His accent sounds
I
so
could
weird
use
now.
someone who can work
What
alone
happened?
and get results. Nemro's been stewing in his slime since we lost a shipment of rare ores in the Evokai lands. He blames me for some reason. Now the Evokai, they're Hutta natives from before the cartel came. They mostly want us dead. If you get that shipment back, I'll pay you good.
Yeah, I actually want to name
How much
a number.
money are we talking about?
More than enough. I'm not negotiating. There's a work camp outside Jaguna. Nimro set it up.
Something
for some
definitely
Evokai
weird
who
about his
wanted
accent
peace.
now. I don't know
Bad
if it was
deal,
like a
poor rubes.
re-recording
The
or
chief
what.
there, Odef, was supposed to talk to the other Evokai tribes about returning the ore, but he didn't come through.
Or the voice actors
He
just
knows
forgot to
something,
be
though.
like British.
Now, if you'll excuse me, I have an appointment to keep. But I look forward to seeing if the Red Blade's as good as they say.
Okay. Whee!
I'm telling you, baby, I'm big time.
Okay. I'm telling you, baby, I'm big time. Whee! Fall damage? Nope. But I think
I'll
there
have
is
more
fall
credits
damage in
than
this
I
game.
know what to do with. Jewelry, dresses, speeders, whatever you want, baby.
The thing that's kind of weird is like the when you kind of run past these NPCs, it kind of there's no like, I mean, it sounds kind of nitpicky because it is, but there's no stereo. Like I can't if I turn left, I don't get on the right. It's kinda weird.
Time to break out the big guns.
A bit weird. I don't know if I can like. Is that like a setting or background audio? No. Weird. Very weird. Ah, look at that guy. Damn. What the hell? It even has an animation. What? It's been a while. It's been a while, man. Okay. Uck dog. Or ack dog, I don't know. So far, I feel pretty powerful, like... I love throwing grenades, it's like... I just won. Ivachi totem. How do I get over there? Good thing I have the rocket boost. Sniper. Watch the sniper. Grenade is cool, I can just throw it like while running. I hate it when you have to stop. Like... Nice. Okay, Enforcer. Enforcer? Barely know her. Okay. Over here? No. Yes. No. Yes. Where the hell is it? Speak to Odef. Oh. Okay. Okay.
You said you were going to get the ore back.
Punch!
I've done all I can. The other tribes, will not listen.
If you say so.
He punches him again. Can I punch him?
Hey, you the Red Blade. Heard you were coming.
How's that
Any
going?
luck with your interrogation?
Says he's real sorry he couldn't make a deal. That's about it.
The other tribes, the Evokai who refused peace, it was they who attacked your shipment. You have given us homes and work. I help you willingly.
Why? They won't even negotiate?
The tribes, they stole the shipment to spite the Hutts, and to use for themselves. They will make weapons. They took the metals to their great village in the swamps. Only a beast or a shadow can enter. Seek the shipment there if you wish.
Thank you, you've been a great help.
That's all I need.
I only do my part.
All right, Chief. Let's get you a med pack or two. You've had a busy day.
Wow, he beat him up and then he heals him. What the hell? Okay. The thing that I love about this game, that I always loved, is like the atmosphere. The atmosphere is definitely on point. Every planet, as far as I can remember, had a very distinct vibe, and it's very cool. Okay, grenade. Okay. No, wrong button. Goddamn. Okay, one shot at all of them. Okay. Level 6 already. Who knows? Maybe we'll reach level 10 tonight. I'm just picking up stuff. I have no idea what I'm picking up. Where that? Anniversary fireworks. Should take these tiles. Spike back. Okay. I love that I can just jump to that area, it's funny. What am I supposed to even do here? Recover the crates of ore. Okay, lore. Recover ore and lore. What is this? An optional quest. Sure. I don't know. I already have 2 side quests, like, just waiting to happen. Down he goes. Okay. Just randomly killing them, like, why not? Turn to Corral's chest. I turned on auto loot just for, I don't know. Why not? Android data core. Ah. Oh, what is this? Dark spores. What the hell is that? Very small, single worthless Nazgûl stone. This is a very... Next. On fleet turn, petition with the Master Top Secret Army. Okay. Oof, can I fight this guy? Let's see how tough it is. F. Let's see if he's gonna kill me like super fast. Maybe not. Just sniper. Grenade. Just waiting for the fourth ability to be available. Come on. Ah. Nice. The harvester. I can only assume that the cover is helping. Is that better than what I have now? Nope. So what do I have to look up here? Android data core. Where? Oh, is yellow a quest item? Yes. Port doctor or something. Ivaki. Do-do-do-do. No. Ah. Run away! They're all like, I'm aggroing everybody. I can't jet back while fighting? What the hell? Great. Can abuse while in combat. God damn it. Yeah. Wow, I'm like on the verge of dying. Very interesting, like you have to heal up manually. Dr. Tarab.
Dr. Tarab?
Tarab.
I've come about Nemro's bounty on the advanced droid data cores.
Why does he speak differently? I can't get it out of my head that he's like... I'm so British anymore. Core. Okay, cool. Nice. 100 credits, yay. Oh, okay. Wait a minute. Okay. Let's just free up the inventory a bit. Armor, master endurance. Okay. Can I just... No. Okay, new abilities. Suppress fire. I suppose wave also target area. Can only be used from cover. Okay. So... Interesting. Fires a dart at target that deals... Okay. Corrosive dart. Joe dart. So I can't fast travel from here. I cannot. Interesting. Well, at least I have the boost until I can get a mount. So where is the taxi?
State your destination. All vehicles leave on time.
So little credits. Like, I can't believe, like, you need to have like 1,000,000 credits to like buy something. Jeez. Jaguna. No target. Can't wait to get armor that actually like have a jetpack on the back. That'd be cool. Whee!
Telling you, baby, I'm big time.
Telling you, baby. That's not gonna get it. Not gonna get old.
Slow down, Blade. Stay with me a while. We haven't had the chance to talk.
Okay.
I'm Kaleo. Nemro puts me in charge of the good stuff. His guns, his troops, the safety of his little palace. You can spare some time for me, right?
Sure, let's flirt. Why not?
Who am I to say no to a woman like you?
Good answer. People who say no are never very interesting. You've got a nasty reputation, you know. I hear you went and murdered poor Dino Ray right on this spot.
He's not
What
exactly
was
my
that
type,
about, Blade?
but
He came after me. I just defended myself.
It's too bad. He had a pretty face before you messed with it. Me, I'm betting you and Dino had something else going on. You had a reason for coming to Nemro's house. Maybe money. I like to think you'll be trouble, Blade. You'll be bloodthirsty, treacherous. Because I could enjoy keeping an eye on a bloodthirsty, treacherous pirate.
Sounds like a good time.
I could enjoy being watched.
Ooh.
Okay.
Maybe we'll get along after all. If you are trouble, take your time. I'd hate to stick a blaster to your head or a slave collar around your neck before I've seen everything. That's all I wanted to say.
I've seen everything
You can go now.
Okay. Oh, developers, you and your flirty ways. But hey, I guess that's what most people want to. Say you can go now.
You think you can make a threat like that and then just dismiss me?
I just did, didn't I?
Okay. He's like, damn. Dead ass. Okay. Where do I? Oh. Okay.
Fathra will not stop his mining operations. He's going to keep tapping our gas pocket and cut our supply in half.
Oka kiza spida perupa. Gadwa shiniko higa danulia.
Don't play dumb with me, Taflajan. Fathra doesn't need to steal our customers if he doesn't leave us any gas to sell, and we can't uproot him without help.
Punyuki chawa joto jamba.
Idiot. Sorry about Taflajan, Blade. Legitimate business brings out the worst in us. Makes me miss actual crime. But it looks like you're about to brighten my day. You find the shipment?
Are you
If you have my money, I've got your shipment.
You sound like my kids. The fee's been transferred to your account. You'll have access by the time you're back at your apartments. You earned every credit.
At your
I'd buy you a drink in the cantina, but I need to have a chat with Nimro. We should talk more another time, though. You do good work.
Always looking for business. Just say the word, Carols.
And I'll see you when I see you.
I'll see you when I see you. Use the hall terminal in your suite. In my suite? Okay. In my suite. Damn, it's a fancy suite. I've actually been here, am I?
The operation is proceeding well, Agent. Thanks to your intervention, Carol's Jarvis will once again have Nemro's ear. I took note of your meeting with Nemro Security Chief Kaleo. You handled yourself well. Still be on your guard.
Okay.
We've identified her as a freelance assassin, enforcer, and anarchist. She's been attached to a dozen employers in half as many years, using several different aliases.
Killing her wouldn't be any trouble. I can lure her somewhere isolated.
She's a wild card. She may prove a liability, but she could also prove very useful. Watch her. On to more immediate concerns. Nemro operates a major Shvash gas mine on Hutter. The Empire wants access to Nemro's refined gas. Unfortunately, Farthra is tapping the same gas pocket as Nemro. We need to destroy Farthra's operations in the rust yards before Nemro's grinds to a halt.
So it's a sabotage mission.
That's correct. You will travel to Farthra's mining facility and place explosives in the drill shaft, destroying the equipment and collapsing part of the gas pocket. You'll need to strip a uniform and credentials off the facility guards to pass the final security checkpoint. A working disguise is imperative.
Okay.
Should be straightforward.
Your disguise may not hold up under close inspection, so avoid conversation. The explosives have already been delivered to your room. Once you're finished, go back to Carol Jarvis and make sure he knows what happened. Take the credit if you like.
Just make sure he knows what happened.
I'll be back soon.
One more thing, Agent. Darth Jadis pays increasing attention to your work. He will reward success or failure appropriately, and
I like when people say reward failure.
Report back after you've destroyed the mine and inform Carols of the results. Keep her out.
Okay. Wow, 63 credits. God damn. So we got a belt. Credits. Ah, okay. For 3 hours. Okay. Okay, smuggled explosives. He opens up and poosh. Okay. To boom or not to boom? A slight lean. Okay, cool. So there's side quests in this room. That's really nice. Has a vibe. Can't wait to visit the other maps. It's gonna be quite a nostalgia, like, you know, overload. Okay, so I can taxi.
State your destination. All vehicles leave on time.
Where? That one? Maybe.
There are others waiting. Move along.
Move along.
Hi, you! Help me get rid of these beasts and we can split the loot.
Skip everything.
Nemro's guards will never know.
Such a different vibe, like when you don't have like flying mounts. Okay. Keeping secrets. Personal encounter. Interesting. Oh, yeah, I'll keep forgetting about, like, personal cover. Advazi. Okay, so we're gonna hit him. Here. It's funny how they die before it even, like, bullets even reach them. Ooh, a melee guy. Okay. Rust Yards. What a beautiful game. Yeah, it is like a little outdated, blah blah, but it's pretty regardless. Okay. Oh, I remember this place. Ugh. That's cool. Let's poison him. What? Well, that was anticlimactic. Wait a minute, let me check. Oh yeah, that's cool. Like when I'm in cover, I can't be like controlled, which is very good. Oh yeah, those definitely fall down. Quest item. Gain access to the drill chamber. Drill chamber. Drill chamber. Yes. Okay. Fight these guys. Shoot. As soon as I unlock more AoE abilities, it's gonna be even more run and gun. Okay. Economies of scale.
Unable to confirm identity. Entry not authorized.
Okay. Do I have to manually? I assume not. Sure, why not? So how do I...
Unable to confirm identity. Entry not authorized.
Must wear a guard's disguise. How do I do that? How do I do that? Look at my little droid over there. Bugging out. Oh, wait a minute. Is it this? Okay, guard disguise. I assume I have to... Or maybe not. I thought I have to, like, equip it. Oh, they respawned. Let's do this and this. Nice. That's what I wanted to do. Haha. Will it work now? Or do I actually have to equip it?
Unable to confirm identity. Entry
Okay.
not authorized.
How do I... So, how do I... What's the guardian from Central Chambers X panel, Rust Yard? But how do I... What? Is it like quest items? Oh my god, actually... okay. I mean, it makes sense. I just... Well, you have to figure it out.
Cartel representative identity confirmed. Entry authorized.
Okay. Wow, almost 3 a.m. Ugh. Jesus. Plant explosives.
Activating ventilation system. Lockdown in place until ventilation complete.
Okay, my very own little
security droids.
Okay. Nice. Haha. everything. It's gonna suck when my inventory fills up. Gotta sell it to vendors. Don't know why that song just randomly popped up. Okay. Whee! Hada, the rusty ones. One thing that I like about this game more than, for example, Guild Wars 2, is you can actually push enemies. Like, you can push enemies to their death. For some stupid reason, you can't do that in Guild Wars 2. It's so weird. So I have to go back. I hate that when you go into combat, it like cancels out your travel. Target is dead. Should have thrown the grenade at those two. Got there. Okay. Wait a minute. Yeah. My rocket boost. I wonder if the cooldown can be like lower. You may not activate a vehicle crying, pretty sure. Okay. Okay, let's taxi out of
You're
here.
not responsible for missed departures.
Any word from the White?
Oh my god, it's so warm here. Like, it's like the middle of the night and it's super warm. It sucks.
Cold. Hey, Nemro's bound to take the factories back any day now. We'll be working again before you know it. Forget about her.
Keep dreaming, buddy. Keep dreaming.
Forget about it. Forget about it. Aratech, wow, I remember that. Nemro Petitioner. Okay, both of them. Okay.
You'll get the gory details after I report to Nemro. Figure you can wait that long?
Looks like I'll have to. But you don't get...
Blade, nice you decided to come by, but I was just telling Carols I can't stay. I know you understand.
That girl's a handful. But she's good at what she does, I'll give her that.
I'll have to take your word for
I could have said cute too.
Anyways, I'm glad you're here. But those explosions in the rust yards, you wouldn't know anything about that, would you?
There was a
I
blast.
think it was some sort of explosion. Don't know the details.
Is that right? Reports say Fathra's mining equipment was destroyed. Half of the Schwarzgash pocket collapsed. It's good news, Blade. However it happened. With Fathra's mines broke down, we can increase production. Fathra will want revenge of... Look, I have something for you. You'll like it. I'll send it to your room. You done good work for us. You deserve more than
what's
credits.
He gonna send?
Which reminds me, how long are you staying on Hutta?
Why?
What makes you ask?
Well, if you're still around these weeks, I'd like you to meet my sons. They'll be home from their trading expedition. I think you'd get along. Think about it is all I'm saying. Now get going. I'm sure you have other business to take.
Yep. Yes, I do, sir. Or whatever. Okay. Let's continue on. Claim Carol's reward. So I'm 2 levels away. Huh. Rest the stay to get double XP. Okay, so when I log out, I'll log out in a safe space. Cutscene?
Come on, Muti, we don't have time to waste here.
The hell is going on?
Too late. Hey there, you must be the Blade.
I might be. Who are you?
Name's Targan. Me and my gang are freelancers and we're here on business. Someone wanted to know what you were up to, but I guess that plan's off now.
Okay.
Alright, so what's the new plan?
New plan is killing you.
Okay.
Sorry about this.
No, I'm sorry. Wow. 2 shots. Damn. Target's not enemy. Yeah, right. Too late for that. So I got freaking ambushed. Okay. So what is this? Didn't even see what it was. A blade, I guess. A knife. Okay. Requires vibra knife. So I have a vibra knife, but like, huh? Okay, so I have a ranged weapon, but how do I? Whoops. How do I use it? Or do I have to like wait till I get more abilities, or? I don't get it. I don't know. Wish I knew, like, fiber knife. I mean, all of my weapons are like, abilities are ranged. Like, I don't know. Like, I don't know. So the ability tree, I guess, is still kind of locked. Okay. What is this? Okay, never mind. I guess it'll come. It'll come as we play. I still have the outfit.
I understand Nemro's Schwarz gas production is back on schedule, Agent. Excellent work. Keep it up and Darth Jadis may loosen his grip on operations. However, I'm afraid unforeseen circumstances have caused a problem.
Right. Nothing's ever simple, is it?
3 days ago, Carlos Jarvis's sons encountered a Sith apprentice in Imperial space. A dispute broke out. One son died and the other was crippled. When Carlos hears that a Sith slaughtered his child, his sympathy for the Empire will evaporate. We can no longer use him to get to Nemro.
This is an intelligence project. Sith shouldn't be interfering in our work.
The Sith do what they will. We don't control them and we don't pass judgment on them. That doesn't mean they're right, or that we obey them without question, but we phrase those questions carefully. We bide our time. Now, I have a plan to solve our present dilemma, but first we need Carol's out of the way.
You're asking me to kill Carol's?
It's unfortunate, but it's the only way to proceed. I'm sending you an interference program on a computer spike. Go to Carol's suites in the palace. Activate the spike to black out his security monitors.
Okay.
You'll be able to eliminate Carol's and his bodyguards without being seen. When Nemro's people investigate, they'll recognize the jamming program as Republic technology.
Damn, okay. I don't know what to say. Keep going, or to what end? To what end?
So we frame the Republic for the murder of Carol's Jarvis. Why?
One step at a time, Agent. Tothlishan, Nemro's Twi'lek advisor, already expects Father to seek revenge for the destruction of his mines. Our job is to show that the Republic helped Father kill Carol's. Once Carol's is gone, speak to Tothlishan about his suspicions. As Carol's friend, you'll promise to do whatever it takes to find the assassins.
Okay. No one believes that.
Tothlishan doesn't trust me, Keeper. That won't change just because Carol's is dead.
Maybe not, but we need to put all our pieces into play for the endgame. For now, get to Carol's suites and use the computer spike. We'll discuss more once Carol's is eliminated and Tothlishan's suspicion. Keep her out.
Okay, that's weird, so we have to kill him. Interesting. Guess I'll immediately equip this. Yep. Nice. And I really should, like, sell stuff to a vendor. Does not make any sense not to.
I'm telling you, baby.
Where's a vendor?
Moving up, climbing the ladder. As soon as Nemro hears how I can crack his skull with the Coast Guard,
okay.
I'll be in there. They'll probably make me a lieutenant.
Sell with the right click. Okay. Can I sell? Can I quick sell? Sell junk. There we go. Nice. I don't want to sell that. Who knows? Maybe it'd be useful. Don't need that anymore. Don't need that anymore. Put this down here. Let's organize it a bit, shall we? Why not? How much does inventory module cost? 20,000. Oh. Okay. Bound. Hopefully I can put it on a different character. Major threat boost. Can I combine these? Nope. Bound to legacy. Bound. Oh, okay, so these are character bound, I guess. Imperial Covert. Huh. I mean... Covert Pilot, Ace Pilot. What's the difference? I forgot. Ah, it's kind of a little bit more red. Sure, let's take them all. Credits. He equipped it all, what the hell? Okay. Show head. Outfitter. Yeah, sure, let's Oh, it's gonna cost me. God damn it. Nice graphical effects, actually. I had no idea. Covert, covert, covert. Sure. What happens if I like delete these? The Sand Pilot. Oh wow, I can't even. Huh, okay. Pilot. Outfit. Sure. So if I do this, does it change anything? Interesting. Okay. I could have sworn I had like some dies unlocked. I didn't get it. Huh. It doesn't say. What is this? Oh, how much? Ah, yeah. Okay. Anyway, well, cool little outfit. Why not? I thought the jetpack was gonna like go out of his back. But, no.
I'm telling you, baby, I'm big time.
Apparently not. Okay. Oh man, the time. Like, oh, it's almost 3 AM. I'll play a bit more. I don't know if this is gonna like finish Hada. For me, like, we'll see. Okay, what is this? It healed me, okay. Interesting. Oh, he's there. Ah, so much for stealth.
What's going on here? You thought you'd just go and switch sides? Damn you!
Time to die. What to do? What to do? Had to be done. I can help you. Time to die. Let's see what happens if I say I can help you. He's been okay.
You can survive this, but we have to work together.
You're offering me mercy? Oh, your timing's bad. I could use a fight right now. I just got word that my boys are dead.
Wow,
Blade.
okay.
Some Imperial piece of filth killed them for refusing to bow and scrape.
They weren't
You're
both.
wrong.
Yeah.
One is dead, but the other's only crippled.
How could you know that? How? I get it. Kill one, take the other hostage.
Got it.
Just make sure Carol's Javis cooperates, right? You slime. What is it you want from me?
Do what I say or the kid dies. What? That's a light side option? Interesting.
I want you to go search for your son and leave your life here behind.
My son's health
went a little
in
out of his
exchange for
way.
everything I have, huh? I've made better bargains. I'll go. Not a word to Nemro. With what you've done in here, they'll probably think I was disintegrated.
I'll know what you do next. Don't mess up or else. Take care.
Good luck, Carols. Be safe.
Don't think you can ruin me and talk like we're buddies. Good.
Okay, well, pretty much most of the missions here were like contained in this one area.
Piti do tenyago kakajujo, da biska ku paliya.
They say. Okay.
Chakita huta, kunta chuta, kasuyali kulira, kanki kung.
Hey, buddy.
Yeah, it's great seeing you too.
Choski nawi yuchusu. Kabano tase makipuna, mali tuta odmishka. Piti do tenyago kakajujo, da biska ku paliya.
I didn't help Carols for free. Are you gonna pay me for my time?
O kakiza spida perupa, kadwa shiniko higa danulia. Pliska taka, yayoska ukle yuga chesko pukuta. Yinga kijita, nimni tanuv, alelo kwekuta. Kunta chuta, kasuyali kulira, kanki
It's funny because we know what happened.
O kakiza spida perupa, kadwa shiniko higa danulia.
How?
I wouldn't even know where to start.
Yinga kijita, nimni tanuv, alelo kwekuta. Uka kampak nijit, tonka yiliska chanaga.
Okay. Okay. Use the holo terminal. Where? Oh, in my suite. My sweet. the little droid that like brings the drinks, so cute. Okay, my suite.
So, this is where you've been hiding.
Ooh.
Nice.
Hello.
Is the blood on the floor fresh?
Let
or
me
did
guess,
that
more
come with the
flirting.
room?
Yep, there it is. Blood on the floor fresh to come to the room. Well, hello.
Just what I've always wanted.
Oh
A pretty girl waiting for me at home.
Nice. But that's not why I'm here. Not this time, anyway. You've been all over town racking up quite a body count.
Not really
and I know what you did to Carols.
my character's type, I
You're
guess.
after something bigger than Emerald. I'm not sure what, and I'm not sure why. But I want in on it.
Oh, drama. Okay. I'm not sure what. Why is she meddling into it? Like, I don't get it. Alright, you're deluded. This is the end for you. Oof. Don't want to be too harsh. I'll say you're deluded.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I
I'm
don't
an
have a
ambitious
single
girl,
clue.
and all I'm asking for is my cut. Think about it, and think about what I could do for you.
Ooh.
Allow me to respond to that.
He's been
What's this now?
He's been spying the whole time.
We know who you are, Khalil Janus, and we are willing to offer you a deal. I am Keeper. I represent
I'm the
Imperial
goalkeeper.
Intelligence, as does my operative. We are aware of your activities on Ratatak, Ord Mantell, and Brental's Force.
We've seen
as
the
well as
filthy
your
shit you've done.
affiliations. Your skills could prove useful, and we are willing to offer you a place in our ranks. You would become a very well-paid servant of the Empire.
You'll be a great
I've
servant.
heard worse propositions. What do you think, Agent? You want me on your side?
Wow, she just accepted it just like that. I'd rather just shoot you. Oh my god. We'll have a
I don't see why not. Sounds like fun to me.
I was looking to trade up anyway. And I'm guessing I can ride you a ways before you break. Count me in. But call me a servant of the Empire again, and I'll bust your face.
Charming. We'll discuss the details later. As for you, Agent, Tarfalgen is convinced that Father of the Hutt is a major threat to business. Well done. Now we must bring Tarfalgen proof that Father has support from the Republic. The first step is to obtain a holodisc from Father's palace.
Of course.
The disc contains holo recordings of all Father's dealings. The Hutt is too paranoid for his own good. You'll have to break into his archives to get it.
It'll mean lifting security coats off the palace overseers. Like you said, paranoid Hutt.
Noted. Once you reach the archives, use this computer spike on the holodisc.
Okay.
It will be altered to show Father meeting with Republic officers. Then bring the forgery to Tarfalgen.
I'm like, it's a lot of trouble.
All this just to gain the allegiance of a thug like Nemro.
It's an inglorious business, isn't it?
Inglorious
Tarfalgen,
bastard.
convinced that his enemies are allied with the Galactic Republic, have no doubt. He will turn to us for help. We are in the endgame. Kalia will accompany you on this mission and will act under your command.
Okay.
Last time I went to Father's palace, I had so many adrenals in my system I was coming down for a week. This should be entertaining.
Okay. Guess we shall entertain. Okay, new rifle. Kaleo Jan's customization. Oh, I remember this. How do you... Oh, preview, control. I love that it actually gives you the tooltip. So... okay. Changes her face paint? Oh, no, it changes her look in general. Nah, just face stuff, I guess. I don't know, I mean... Probably not that one, that one's kind of weird. I mean, they're all kind of weird. I don't know. So silly. Why do I have to decide? Whoops. I don't know. Maybe it's optional? Alright, and now I have a... companion, yeah. Whoops, what the hell? How do I... what? Huh? What happened? Okay, but how do I... You cannot equip beside... Okay, but... How do I put it back? What? Huh? Weapon tuning, crystal weapon tuning. How do I... Okay, I do have her. Am I doing it wrong? Okay, I can't equip it. What the hell? So weird. How do I... Okay. Weird. Okay, now she's gonna follow me around. Companion, heal, tank. Okay. Oops.
I'm telling you, baby, I'm big time.
That's not gonna get old, is it? God damn it, 3 freaking AM. Can't believe I've been playing for almost 3.5 hours. Jesus Christ.
I'll have more credits than I know what to do with. Jewelry, dresses, speeders.
Believe me,
whatever
baby.
you want, baby.
Whatever you want, baby. Baby. Okay, so I assume that's the last one.
State your destination. All vehicles leave on time.
Okay. I mean, so far so good. Like, I'll make it to level 10 tonight, and well, yeah. After this quest finishes, if that's the last one on this planet, then I'll call it.
Help me get rid of these beasts, and we can split the loot. Nemro's guys will never know.
Yes, thank you. Of course, gotta remember. Yes. Very nice, very nice. It's so freaking hot here. It's like the middle of the night, but it's freaking hot. Oh well. No, stop. Stop. Go away. Go away, you. How was that? Okay. Just gotta make sure you're not getting dehydrated. Haha, yes. Oh, that's what it is. Okay, so it's kind of like a semi-AoE attack, I guess. It's still weird, like... I see that I can wield, like, a knife, but I don't know how to use it. Like, for now I only have, like, ranged abilities. So, I have no clue. Maybe later I get an ability? I don't know. Well, gotta go. Just thought I'd check in on a stream. Yeah, thanks for dropping by, man. Yeah, I am gonna be, like, as soon as I finish this, the mission that I'm heading towards, it's gonna call it a day. It's getting pretty late. Gotta work tomorrow and all the other shenanigans. But yeah, I'll see you next time, man. Come on. Every time I run through these enemies, I'm thinking like, should have chosen a stealth subclass, but eh. Oh well. Okay. Oh. But yeah, all in all, I'm super happy to be back in this, like, little universe. It's I still can't believe it. It's been so long, man. Ah, what is this? Can I disable it? Yes. Ah, it's like a hidden bonus quest, I guess. Bonus objective. Leave no trace. I get experience. Okay. Why not? Okay, no, wrong ability. Yeah. There we go. Okay, let's do this. Oh, wow, nice range actually.
Getting good.
Yeah. By the way, if anybody tuned in recently, this is welcome. This is my Star Wars: Old Republic, if it isn't obvious, playthrough after like 10 plus years. So yeah, chosen the Imperial agent, and well, because I kind of figured it, because it's widely accepted as the best story. Might as well go through with it. So far, so good. The tempo is definitely slower than Guild Wars 2, obviously, but it's pretty nice. I'm enjoying it. It's nice to go back a little bit. Let's say more old school. Okay, poisoned. Oh, nope. So yeah, all in all, I'm pretty much enjoying it. What? I did no damage? What? Huh. I love it, he's just standing there. Access codes, okay. So, one more camera, right? Yep, there it is. Nice. Beep, boop, boop. Nice, level 10. Haha. What is this? Come on, it went away. Personal conquest increase. Okay. Okay. So, I assume I completed this? How do I claim it? Oh, I haven't completed it. Okay. Not yet. Okay. Cleaning probe. Okay. You must die too, sir. What is this? Escape. Purchase all capacity movement, impairing effects. Leg shot. Fire shot deals. Okay. Okay, interesting. Grenade!
Alright, make me look good.
Okay. Oh, okay. That's good. Very useful. Knock him down. Medical droid. Maybe I can sell stuff?
Please use all products only as intended.
Don't use it in any way, shape, or form as it not intended. Oh, I forgot to equip this. Damn it. Ragul vaccine. Wow, I remember that. Remember the Ragul event, whatever. Stim pack. Okay.
Be well.
Very well. Sleep well. Okay, equip the better rifle. There we go. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Switch this around. Well, OCD. Oh, wait a minute, I'm not done. Acquire the access codes. Where is it? Oh, I have to kill those guys. Okay. Pew, pew, pew. Come on, yellow. Nope. Oh, there it is. Yeah, damn it. Okay, auto loot. Whee! I can only assume this is the last mission. Lack the skill to use that item. Didn't it say level 10? Wait a minute. Wait a minute, wait a minute. How do I... not perks, character perks, right? Where's the mount? Speeder piloting, so I need 40k. Wow, that's a lot of crits. That's a lot of freaking crits. Could have sworn there, like, before you could do it like cheaper. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah.
Rise and shine.
I love that I can drop a cover anywhere like this. That's interesting. She's like, Okay. Take cover. My favorite ability. Just AoE the shit out of him. Whoops. Nice. Come on, come on, come on. Nice. A lot easier with a companion. Oh, look at that. Huh, interesting. I still kind of get used to it. Still getting used to the controls. But not bad, not bad. Like by next stream, I'll be a freaking pro. Good thing the area is very wide. The area effect. What is this? Okay, quick travel. I've seen that. I've seen that. Your saga begins. Companions dribbling your journeys. More advanced combat styles. Okay. You'll have your own ship. I remember that too. During space missions, yeah, I've also remember that. Flashpoints. Activity finder, yes. Combat role, mission type. Yeah. Collections. Hotel market. Okay, escapes armor, blah blah. I know that. And I do have my strongholds actually. Maybe I'll visit a stronghold. One of my strongholds actually. Wait a minute. Which letter is it? J? L? G? No? H? No? Whoops. Ah, damn it, which one is the stronghold one? U? U. Huh. Okay, hopefully I'll be able to just visit it. Even though I deleted my character, but it's okay. I deleted the owner of it. Ugh. God damn, 3.5 hours. Jesus Christ. 3.5 hours. But it's good. It's good. It's very good. Can't wait to upload the VOD. Ugh. Gotta do the exact same thing as I did with the Warrior playthrough on Guild Wars 2. Why not?
Hello, Non. What brings you down here? Father finally ordered you to check out the shooting? I like that about you, Non. You open.
Just sorry, Hudson came between us. The Hudson. I like much about you too. I'm sorry the Hudson came between us. I'm tempted to go dark side here. I don't know. I'll ask.
I take it you two know each other.
Non wanted me for himself when I got to
she
head
approves.
out.
Okay.
He couldn't afford me.
Laporam amka, mamni nikag, nagnaya mamni kambram.
Heads are. I will make certain your heads are sent to your homeworlds. Well, for her sake, why not?
I'll tell you what. Why don't we make a deal instead?
Okay.
Karakimi, nikag nikag, kanyak gak akiguamjam.
What could you possibly
You've
provide?
got to be kidding. We can kill Non. Even make it past his guards if we're lucky.
Okay.
Have it your way, Killio.
Okay.
Let's start this fight.
Wow, she actually wants to kill him. Okay.
I knew coming here would be a good time.
Sometimes it's hard to tell. Like,
You and me?
keep forgetting how the controls do. I just stand and shoot like over there, and he's like dying over there. Okay, good. He's down.
That's it then. Better hope your boss knows how to make a convincing forgery. Of course, there's going to be a bloodbath once Nemro and Tothlogen see what's on the disc.
Yeah, I love you. So you can say quiet. Quiet, you. What?
Care to explain that?
If that disc really names all of Fothra's business partners, it probably identifies half the people in Jaguna. Merchants, gangsters, debtors, the usual scum. When Nemro gets a hold of it, he'll want revenge on anyone who dared to go to Fothra behind his back. There'll be bodies clogging the gutters for weeks.
Won't that straighten
us? Brutal. But if it helps Nemro, it could help our position.
It would make Nemro happy, but I doubt it'd actually help his business. Different things.
Okay.
If you're feeling queasy, you could always erase the extra data and scratch up the disk. Make it look like only the doctored recording miraculously survived the damage. So, we deliver Keeper's forgery without the real data. Nemro doesn't get his revenge spree. The risk is that Tothlogen figures out you erased the good stuff.
We'll chance it, it'll be fun.
Erasing the data is risky. I thought you enjoyed a little risk.
Who says I don't? I'll do the damage. We'll see how far we can take this con. Now let's get that thing to Tothlogen and see what happens.
I mean, I'm not trying, like, to be on her side, like, on purpose. But, I don't know. I'll just go by my gut. Kind of figured, like, when it comes to choices, it's, you know, always best to go by your gut. Before I used to think, like, oh my god, you know, what's the best choice, you know, and all. Just go by your gut. Because, like, ultimately, that's most likely how you would have wanted to do something. Okay, just shooting him up. Introduction to Conquests. Oh, I remember, yeah. Whoops. I don't know. Maybe different stream. What? Did no damage with that. What? That was weird. Okay. Huh. Bizarre. Okay. Okay. What are you shooting? Poison dart. I love throwing grenades at, like, people's faces. It's so bizarre, like nobody would ever do that. Okay. Pick up everything. Randomly fill up your inventory. Okay, junk and junk and more junk. Okay, I wonder what's next. Okay, have to fight him.
All right, make me look good.
Pew, 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 pew. AoE attack on one person. Poison dart. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Keep forgetting that like crouching down is F. Always go for the mount button. Kolto. Yeah, it's actually called Kolto in the Old Republic, and later on during the movie's time period, it's called Bacta.
Rise and shine.
I think they like switched it better. I don't know. I'm not really too sure on the lore. Headshots, massive fun. You shall not. There we go. Well, little by little, credits and 5k, yay! Okay, so we're out of there. Let's get out of here. Well, we're definitely gonna have to fight these, some of them. Okay. It's so weird without a mount. Kolto shell. Okay. You have to fight this guy? Okay. Pew. Got to fight this guy too. Snipe. Bling. Okay. Speed boost. Where's the taxi? There it is. Okay.
You're not responsible for missed departures.
We don't give a fuck about it. Okay. I have to go inside.
There are others waiting. Move along.
Move along. A lot of back and forth. Which is one thing I don't miss.
What?
But
Get back in those shackles! You have one chance!
it's funny how the dialogue continues even though you're like miles away. I've always like wondered why they didn't implement like flying mounts.
I've sent more of this stupid thugs.
The way the game is
Time
right
to break
now,
out the big
and
guns.
the way it was all these years, like if there were flying mounts, then I don't know. Guess it wasn't designed that way, so. But yeah, I always wanted to like jetpack, you know, high up and I don't know. Conquest. A conquest objective was like to hail a taxi. Taxi! Rocket boost is definitely handy. I cannot complain. It's a new truth. Okay, now we have to lie to this guy.
Hello, Talthasian. The Red Blade claims to have something to show you.
Manchi do ti puna puna. Kabuk nuni slemo.
Okay.
Mokili mo clunky. Nick me.
For enough credits, sure.
You
Yeah.
better be paying well, Talthasian.
Oh, she approves too, okay.
I went through a lot to get this disc.
Chobot I kafstuan dile jihulo kuta.
Wow.
Please kataka. Yayoska ukle yuga chesko.
Okay. Foolish, Gotthard. Indeed.
That's what it looks like. What are you gonna do?
Imache. Churon chica jiliska chanaga.
Okay, cool. Wow, idiots. Well, I mean, how could they have known? Be rewarded. No, I will not. Number 2 is no. Thank you. Why not?
A pleasure doing business with you, mighty Nemro.
Just get it done with.
Dobata jimoa tusawa. Mikuna posta morulia.
No, get out of here. Okay, so we just like fooled them all. Interesting. Ooga jaka ooga. Okay. Fly out of here. Speak to Keeper via holo terminal. I assume in my suite. Pretty sweet. It's so weird how like the door is open. Like, I mean, I guess this closes it, but okay. I assume this is the last
It is done, Agent.
mission.
Nemro is already contacting Imperial embassies looking to establish relations. He'll be eating out of our hands within the month. In the short term, our chemical and stimulant stockpiles will nearly double. In the long term, we're a step closer to bringing all of Hutta under Imperial control. I'll make my full report to Darth Jadis shortly. I expect he'll be very pleased with our work.
Then he's done with.
Assuming he's satisfied, does that mean Jadis will leave Imperial intelligence alone?
I wouldn't assume anything at this juncture. Besides which, that isn't your concern. Your mission is now complete.
You little
There's a shuttle waiting for you in Jaguna. It will take you to Drummond Cast. Once you've arrived on planet, report to Imperial Intelligence Headquarters in the Citadel. I'll debrief you there.
Great paperwork, okay.
Don't make me jump through bureaucratic rings.
If you want another assignment, you will follow orders. Khalil, you will also report to Drummond Cast. I assume Nemro won't be surprised by your sudden disappearance.
He'll be hurt, but no one will be surprised that I left with the blade.
And he's certainly not the first employer you've walked out on. In any case, I'll expect to see both of you soon.
He knows. I'll ask.
Hold on, who else is Khalil betrayed?
She approves.
This isn't the time or place for that, Agent. Report to the shuttle as soon as possible. Keep her out.
Okay, yeah. She would approve, yeah. Okay, so apparently I did some conquest things. Cool. You have gained influence. Can I claim anything? Maybe you don't claim it. Maybe it's just... Maybe you just do these things and then it fills up, I guess. I really thought it was gonna be like an immediate payout or something. Oh well. Go to the Jaguna spaceport. Okay, yeah, okay, the appropriate time to finish the stream. I'm afraid to look, it's like, my god. Oh look, a fellow jetpack. Rocket boost fellow. It's 3:30 in the morning. Oh. But it was fun. It was fun. It's really cool to be back. Okay. Maybe I should have taken the taxi, but it's fine. I can't go through the area without yeah, I'm blowing something up. Yeah, I don't even get XP for these guys. Am I even going the right way? Nope. Whoops. I went the completely wrong way. Maybe this guy gave a little bit of XP, huh? A lot easier to kill now. Nice. Nade. Yep. Wow, I didn't even get XP. Okay. Weird. Yeah, I completely went the wrong way. Companion influence.
What's it today?
Guns to Balmora.
Holocall, okay.
Full of weapon factories, and they still need more. How about you?
Cutscene? Yep.
How bad is very bad?
Tatos Imperis. Vataranai Angomis Akananon. Alas Protas Era.
Oh, right. This is bad.
Smalsio Poputus Mana Ira Padare Mananan Kali. Atrodonomales. Smogas Total Gispava Apiatai.
Ah, okay. Yeah, I kind of remember this.
I appreciate the advice.
Atolgi I Parkale Tiam Jamas. Graitai Aptikti. Irukrit Virtunia Savasia.
Okay. Whee! Yeah, it's always some kind of hangar, like, battle. In the end.
So,
well, that helmet is
you're
familiar.
The one who killed my men. The pretender who wants to be the Blade.
At last, the mysterious
You
fool.
must be the pirate who's too scared to use his name.
I'm the Red Blade, you worm. The real Red Blade. And you've got one chance to explain yourself before I burn a hole through your head.
Oh, I
Hard
don't.
to explain myself to a dead man.
She approves again.
You're a piece of work, but you're not leaving here alive.
Is he gonna fight me or what? Oh, it's like a showdown. I like spare him or what?
Damn you, pretender.
Ha! You're a pretender. Oh, he just died. Okay. Okay, I remember these things. Enhancement. Okay. Nice. Level 11. So I didn't get any, like, I can't do these things. Oh, level 15. Okay. I mean, yeah. Field specialization. Would be very nice to. You must be a subscriber to change your combat style. Kinda sucks. Class card selection. Wish you could change it like on the fly, but apparently you can't. But I mean, like, well, I don't know. I don't know because I'm not a subscriber, but take the shuttle to Imperial Fleet. What is this? Activate lore object to learn about modification. Sure. Just want to see this. Is it a better rifle? I have no idea. Yeah, it's definitely better.
Alright, make me look good.
I like that it doesn't change my cosmetic. That's good. That's a really cool thing. Okay. Activate the lore object.
Watch yourself, alright?
Okay. Okay, cool. Oh, extra XP. Damn, it's getting hot. Cool. Ah, finally. Leaving Hutta. Imperial Fleet. Nice. Okay, and depending on what happens next, hopefully it won't be like... Nice. Yeah, what I want to say is gonna end off the stream here. Just want to land on Hutta, on the Imperial Fleet. Okay, loading. Nice. Okay, cool. Leaving Hutta, and I get like companion outfits. This item cannot be previewed. What the hell? Okay. That's weird. Why can't I preview it? So I just look at it from afar. Civilian, street, underworld. Civilian, why not? So... Okay. Take call. Okay. Okay, so I can modify her stuff. Okay. Okay, cool. Or shelter Drummond cost. Okay, I'll do that next time. I'm gonna stop the stream here, and yes, thank you for whoever is watching still, whoever popped in right now. I'll see you next stream, and yeah, that'll be it for this session. Have a good one. It's been great start. See you next time. Peace.